What is up to all the difference makers out there? Oh, okay, so we have a really authentic show today. For all those that don't know, Coffee and Grit, how this even started was I was going out and I was finding people that just really inspired me, entrepreneurs, other coaches, other consultants, just motivational people that I saw being successful. And I'd sit down and I'd invite them to coffee and I would have these conversations that they would leave me a changed person. They helped me become a better entrepreneur, a better business owner, a better husband, a better father. I just looked at life differently. And as I'm going through and I'm having these conversations, I was like, what if I started recording these and got them out to other people? Because I know one thing about myself is I'm going out and I want to pick the brains of these people. I want to continue to grow and get better, but I know that makes me different. And a lot of people don't go out and find those people. And I'm like, I'm having these really impactful conversations. What if other people could hear these conversations and they don't have to go through the legwork that I'm going through to set these conversations up? So, with the exception of a couple conversations that I've had on this Coffee and Grit podcast, I've had conversations, like one-on-one conversations with every single person, again, with the exception of a couple. This conversation we're about to have today, I've known this guy for about 3 years now between groups that we've been in. He's actually I had the great honor of him introducing me to an event that I spoke at, which was to this day one of the best introductions I've ever had. It was super incredible. So I hope that I can do him justice and introduce him today. But we're having this conversation. This is the first time that I've sat down and had a one-on-one conversation with Nicklaus Suino, and I'm super, super excited because there's just even in this little warm-up talk, I know we're going to go so many ways in like personal development, talking about overcoming challenges, talking about community, talking about having abundance mindset. We're going to have some really cool stuff. So this guy, he is a 9-time author, founder and owner of 7 different businesses, in something we were just talking about that we're going to go into the conversation of through the pandemic, some of us struggled and some of us excelled. What if you had a business that struggled and another one that was excelling? What does that look like? So we're going to have a conversation about that. I'm just super excited to dive into this. So I'm going to stop talking and introduce, with no further ado, Nicklaus Suino.
What is up, man? It's been way too long, and I'm glad we finally made this happen.
Man, like I said, I was sitting there and I was like, who haven't I talked to and who do I want to talk to? And your name was the first one that popped up. And I was like, of course. And I'm glad. I'm like, this is a long shot. What are you doing on Monday? And you responded back like, I can make it. It's like, I had to check it 4 times to see if I was reading it right before I got excited.
I wedged you in, man. I got a lot going on today, but this was awesome to get the email from you. And, as you said, I introduced you at that event. And of course we're friends on Facebook, so I follow what you do. This is way overdue. I don't know why it took so long, and it won't take it long to get the second time.
We need to now make it something regular. But I've had so many people. It's like, you haven't sat down and talked. You and Nick haven't had a conversation. You guys would just try to talk for hours. Maybe that's why we haven't.
It's crazy. Exactly. This is just kicking it off.
So we had that little bit of a segue, and we were talking. I'm like, we need to get this on in the conversation of. Because I asked you what's been up. It's been 2 years. I probably haven't seen you in person since the pandemic, and so what's been going up? And you kind of started unfolding. So I'd love to kind of dive into that.
Yeah. So I took you through in the summer of COVID, right? In summer 2020, as I mentioned to you, my martial arts business was at a low ebb. The gyms and the martial arts were shut down. We had to go entirely to Zoom, which is cool. I'm glad it existed, but it's a horrible method for teaching martial arts. And rightfully so. Our folks dropped out. We had about 35% pre-COVID membership in the peak of COVID, and it was a really challenging time. We had to be flexible. We had to think outside the box, and most importantly, we had to reach out to our people and say, "Listen, this is tough. It's tough for all of us, but we're in it together. And what can you do to help?"
Yeah,
and it was amazing. I mean, the outpouring of support for that business was insane.
What do you think that is with that particular business? What is it about that you get so much community support?
Well, authentic martial arts is a really unique pursuit, and I could talk about that for the whole time you and I talk together. But clearly, that's not the only reason we're here. But we sweat, and we bleed, sweat, and cry together on the mats. You get to really make great relationships with people. They're into self-improvement, especially long-term people. Once they've stayed there, they recognize how important that is for their lives. Mm-hmm. And we're a part of that. I'm growing, they're growing. And And it soon becomes clear if people stick that it's not about, it's not a business for us as much as it is an opportunity to help people grow. And when they recognize that, they realize it's also very hard to find other things like that. So they say, listen, I'm in it. Let me help you. We made it through. As I said, the outpouring of support was ridiculous. And little by little, January 2021, we started growing, and we've been on a growth curve ever since. Knock on wood, I don't want to get too confident. I want to do everything I can to serve people. But it's been amazing. We're bigger than we've ever been.
I was going to say, you mentioned before that you're bigger than you were even before the pandemic.
Yeah. Now we've gotten better at processes. One thing COVID allowed us to do is really focus in and make sure that things are done well. Our marketing's better. Our support staff, our instructors are better. A lot of the administration stuff is better. So that's good. You always have to improve. But the core of what we do there, and I hope the core of everything I do, is authenticity. You're trying to truly help people. Mm-hmm. And when you do, sooner or later, the results are good.
It's like A Wonderful Life, right? The movie It's a Wonderful Life. Have you seen that? And that, at the end, he's in this trouble, but all these people he's taken care of his whole entire life. And he thinks his life is worthless, but all these people he's taken care of his whole entire life come and help him in that time of need. And it's so beautiful, but I think it's so true is when you take care of people, and it's not like I operate on this, you go out and you just do good things for people, not with I'm going to knock on your door and be like, Nick, remember that nice thing I did for you? It's time to pay up, buddy. But if you just go out and you do good things for people, you'll have a good life. People will rally around you and support you in a time of need.
Yeah, and I think when I can't speak for other people. When I was young, I saw that more as an exchange, right? Which wasn't the way to look at it. Hey. Right? One of my favorite sayings is the Godfather saying, right? Someday, and that day may never come, I will ask a favor of you. But the truth is, you don't, right? You serve people. It's a process. It's like marketing. Yeah. It's the same thing. You figure out what works and you stay in it, and eventually it works. Sometimes you have to eat, whatever it might be in your life, right? Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for a while.
Yeah.
But eventually, goodness pays. I think that's a rule of the universe.
Yeah. If you're an entrepreneur, you get that inside joke and you're probably laughing right now, or you're eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Either way, shout out to you.
Right, 100%. That's great.
So how do you get in position? Like, how did you all of a sudden wake up one day and have 7 businesses?
Well, I didn't wake up one day. And I'd be insane if I did that. I might be insane anyway. This all started in 2006 when I moved back to Ann Arbor. I had owned martial arts businesses before, but I was working in a law firm in northern Michigan. You may have heard this story, but I really was unhappy. And so I took a lot of long walks in the woods by myself with my wife. And kind of the question was, who are you? And, what's the rest of your life look like? Where do you want to be? And the answer always came back, well, you're a martial artist. You need to live into that. So knowing Ann Arbor is a diverse community, good economics here, people are interested in things that are maybe a little non-mainstream. Came back to Ann Arbor, opened a dojo, and it all arose out of that. I needed to learn how to market the martial arts school.
Yeah.
Went to a friend to have a website built, got the website built, and then the question was, well, people are going to see this, right?
Now what do you do with it? Yeah.
and he's like, no, get back in here. So my buddy Don Pryor, who's now co-owner of our marketing business, Michigan SEO Group, taught me how to do SEO. And so in the beginning, I had no students in a lot of time, so I did SEO for a while, got really good at it. It made JMac successful. And I would be going out to these business groups, which eventually I think led to you and I meeting each other somewhere.
Yeah.
But I was sitting there going, hey, business people, you should do martial arts, which in retrospect was pretty stupid. But it gave me an opportunity to hear what they were saying. And everybody at networking events is ultimately saying some form of, how do I get more business?
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Sometimes they're overt about it. Sometimes they're not so overt about it. But the point was, I just eventually, it soaked in, right? I had to be smacked in the head a lot of times. And finally, when it got in there, I'm like, oh, okay. Well, listen, I've just been doing this for JMac for X number of months at that point. Pretty good at it. So I started just tentatively offering it to people.
Yeah.
And that just took off. Started helping people, started growing business, had some success with it. Now we're a full-fledged agency, just grew. I have a publishing company that was kind of out of the personal development area, right? I wrote personal development books, peddled them to major publishing houses with no success. Well, how do you get around that? Well, Amazon publishes books, can publish books for you. Build a company around that, start publishing the titles, that kind of thing. So it's all organic. It just grew. It all comes out of that. Comes out of the idea that if you are passionate about something, you want to get it done, you learn how to do it. You do it for a while, then you bring other people in, figure out how to help them, and things take on a life of their own.
I love it because I think most great businesses come out of the form of solving a problem. And it's like you came from law. Did you ever see yourself being in a marketing space?
Never in 1,000 years. Yeah. And I still, once in a while reflect on it. I don't think of myself as a marketer because when I think of marketers, it's not always that complimentary, which is probably unfair. It's probably unfair, right?
Yeah.
But once you do it for your own business, you learn a lot about it. And it's a shame to throw that knowledge away. So now we've been helping people, since around 2006. And, which is great because that has changed a lot of lives. A lot of our clients have grown their businesses with our help. And I have people that are on my payroll whose lives have improved because of the work we do together.
Yeah.
I was sitting in my office this morning. There's a Monday meeting that I used to be in charge of, and now one of our senior employees is running it, but I get to listen kind of through the door. And I was just having this great moment of going, wow, like this team really cares. They're really doing a great job, right? And my job now is just to support them, make sure that they have a great life at work. And that's a cool place to be.
Tell me how you got there. Because I think any entrepreneur listening in, a lot of people are in that solopreneur space, or they're trying to build their business, they're trying to scale. And for you to describe that, of now you can sit in the office and you have somebody in your company that runs that show now, and you can just sit back and have fun versus worrying, is this going to go down? How did you give up that control? Like, and I know we're going to talk a lot about personal development, but like, how did you give up that control? And then how did you do it the right way to where they were able to run with it?
Yeah. Well, I just want to be clear to everybody listening. The anxiety doesn't ever go away, but, it's a long process. When we started, we were doing the work, and then we realized that a lot of the work is repetitive. You don't want people to live in that forever. It gets boring. I'm not that guy. I'm not the guy that can chug away. It's the same thing. I got ADD or whatever you write. I'm sure you feel the same. But some people are good at that. And some people like the comfort of a paycheck and a steady kind of work and being able to kind of check the boxes. They like to organize things, right? I like to destroy things, break them down, and build them back up. And they like to, and so there was an opportunity for them to take something that I was maybe not so good at, be better at it than I am, and let me kind of do the big picture stuff. But it's a process. It's hard to let go of control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it is. It's interesting. It's like, but then they're just, how do you find employees that take that level of ownership?
That has been very, very intentional. Starting about 10 years ago, my business partner, Don Pryor, and I just started thinking about that. First of all, how do we make the work environment positive? How do we help people live into not only their work life, but into personal development at work? So it's a part, for better or worse, if you're going to work with us at Michigan SEO Group, you have to have, to some degree, a desire to improve yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, at work, because that's a part of your diet. We talk about it all the time. And little by little, we started hearing the vocabulary that we had gotten from mentors and, learning.
You heard the reoccurring
started
themes.
to hear those themes coming back from our people. And I was like, this is pretty cool. And then, they started coaching each other. So I've got somebody that's brand new. She's been there barely 2 weeks now. And so when they're coaching her, I'm hearing the echoes of what we learned from our mentors years ago. But it's intentional. You and I were just talking about this, whether it be marketing or anything else, it's a process. And you have to trust the process.
Yeah.
So we had to trust the process and never give up. We had that vision for it, and it's never over. But happily, we've come a long way, and we've got a team that really seems to believe in what we're all about there.
Well, I mean, we talk about marketing, and it's so key to, when you're marketing, to know who you are, and who you want to attract, and to have that narrow down. Even as you're talking right now, you're marketing because you're speaking out loud. Anybody that listens is sitting at home is like, oh, I would love to be a part of that environment. What does that look like,
Yeah, for sure. So part one is make sure that that's an environment you want to be in.
Yeah.
Right. And part two, you may want to be in it, but if you're a destructive personality. It's certainly not going to help others. You know,
Yep.
along with this, maybe this is a good time to segue a little bit into personal development. When in 2006, in spite of everything I had learned, so in 2006, I was 46 years old. I had done a lot of stuff, but it was all essentially solopreneur kinds of things, whether my pursuit of martial arts, whether it was building a business, practice of law, it was all essentially about me. But that meeting with my buddy Don and him building the website and then him saying, here's what SEO is, and kind of cooperating together was kind of the first, I'm a slow learner, kind of the first inkling I had that I could be much more powerful as part of a team than I could doing things on my own. And it's branched out. And the more now, 16 years later, almost every endeavor I have is dependent on people.
Well, how else would you run 7 businesses? You'd be insane.
Right. Well, I'm still insane. But yes. But what a great realization. You have to, I have to have we're social beings, and you can leverage that. People have different skill sets. And when you put the right skill sets together, you can do a lot more.
Well, you had mentioned earlier about how even in your dojo, they're growing and you're growing. There's so many people that I've coached or even companies I've consulted in where I'm growing along with them, right? Because I'm learning from them. I'm learning different things from everybody that I touch. And so it's just an incredible experience. Sometimes you go into a relationship thinking, especially maybe being a mentor as in a dojo, right? Like I'm mentoring, I'm changing these people, but to be able to say they're changing me too.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, man, I'm so blessed. I wake up with an opportunity to help make people's lives better. And a lot of times that falls on them in a heavy way, right? Not a bad way, in a heavy way. They're like, wow, like the changes that they go through. Sometimes a little bit, sometimes a lot. And then I get to be there, be in the room with them when they're having those changes. Often they give me part of the credit, which is cool.
Yeah.
It's just a wonderful place to be. So, knock on wood again, things can always change, but that mindset that you finally learn, that abundance mindset that you and I were talking about before the show started, it eventually comes back to you. And even if it's not financial, which is fine, I'm doing fine. Even if financial stuff doesn't change or if I have to struggle there, the rest of it is waking up in the morning and going, I just love life, man. That's a great place to be. Right?
It totally is. And I've been, my business is now 4.5 years old. So it's been, and then through COVID. And so it's like this secular up and down, but like every day I wake up and enjoy doing what I'm doing. Last night was Sunday and I'm not sitting there thinking, oh man, I got to get up in the morning. I got to do this. Like, no, all right. I'm waking up at 8 or I wake up, I have an appointment at 8 a.m. I have this, that's going to be awesome. We're going to have this meeting. It's like, I love doing what I'm doing. So I don't dread that in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I don't recall if you have had like a corporate part of your life where you had go in and punch a clock and right.
Yeah.
Sunday nights were awful.
Awful.
Right?
Yeah. Or getting back home from vacation and having to go back to work after being off for a week or 2 weeks. That's,
But, Sunday night, I'm thinking about this podcast. I got a workout I do Monday mornings with a buddy of mine's in from Canada.
Yeah.
We did the workout together, I've got 4 hours of martial arts to do tonight, stuff I love doing. So I'll be exhausted and happy.
Yeah.
Can't complain.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm reading The Power of Vulnerability right now from Brene Brown.
Ooh, I have not read that.
Oh, super good.
Nice.
And I'm in the last section, and she's talking about play and like what play is. And play is defined as that thing that you would do if you had a chance to do it, you'd do it for hours, and you'd kind of like lose track and time in it, And I was sitting and thinking about, I have those areas of my life pretty well defined, and I know where I love being and where I can just lose track of time. And I it's that balance. You got to have that balance, and not just, especially it can get so easy as an entrepreneur getting caught up in the work of it. To have that balance it keeps you excited and motivated and going.
Yeah. I don't know if this is a universal formula, but for me and the people I tell in martial arts who are helping instruct, it's kind of a 1/3 rule. 1/3 of the stuff you do when you're in a senior position is going to be grunt work. You got to do it. It's administrative. You got to check the boxes. 1/3 of it's just going to be neutral. You're doing it. It's cool. If 1/3 isn't like, you're not wildly excited about 1/3, then maybe you ought to work on it a little bit, craft it a little bit. Because as long as you got that, you got the energy to get through, and you learn lessons in each of those that feeds the other areas.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about you. What is your personal development journey? How did you get into that?
So we alluded earlier to the fact that at one time I was practicing law, and my different career path eventually took me up to northern Michigan. I was working in a law office up there, and it was just a really unpleasant environment. The folks there were unhappy, or it seemed unhappy. I didn't really like the practice, working my butt off. And when you practice law in northern Michigan, you have to spend a lot of time on the road, right?
Because there's lots of space between towns.
Yeah, so I go to courthouse. I'm in Traverse City. I'd go to courthouses in Bay City, Sault Ste. Marie, Grand Rapids, like all these places. A lot of time in the car to think about this.
Bay City's like what, 4-hour drive?
I don't remember what it was. Like, it was a long drive.
Yeah.
It would be a 7-Up, a bag of potato chips, and whatever. So a lot of time to think and just realize, gosh, man, I always wanted to do this, but I'm not happy. But I lived in the most beautiful place in the world. I lived in Traverse City, 3 miles from East Bay. I could step out my back door, and I was in 25,000 acres of Manistee National Forest, like this incredible natural beauty. I couldn't enjoy it. I was just always stressed, always unhappy. So I do these walks and try to think about who I was. And with all that time, this was kind of at the advent of books on tape. Early days of books on tape. So they still had those stores where you go rent a cassette. Right?
Yep.
That's how long ago this was. So I would get a cassette, and some of them were about salesmanship, some of them were about practicing law, but then, stumbled upon some personal development stuff. Jim Rohn, I think, was an early guy. Tony Robbins, of course. And then
Zig Ziglar.
Zig Ziglar was huge in those days. And then I started stumbling into, Brendan Burchard, Deepak Chopra, like just all the big names in personal development. So now I've got 2 or 3 hours where I'm looking forward to being in the car.
Yes.
Like, wow, these guys are showing me something I really didn't understand before. Ended up going to some of those events, and just studying that stuff. And it's funny, the simplest thing, the can opener for me to change from being miserable to being happy, the can opener was when someone asks you how you're doing, say, great. It was salesmanship when I started, right? But that simple can opener, I'd go to the grocery store and buy that bag of chips and that 7-Up, and the cashier would go, how are you today? And I would go, I'm doing great. And they would look up, right?
Yes.
And shocked, right?
Yes.
Well, what? And then I go, how are you doing? And they would mumble something. And I go, well, what would make that better? And all of a sudden you're in a conversation where you're helping them. And I would leave these stupid conversations where I spent $3.47 on a snack, and I'd be like, well, I feel great. And maybe, just maybe, either they thought I was nuts or they were doing great too. But it was proof positive that you can be intentional about happiness. So you don't have to wait for it to come to you. You choose it, and then everything builds on that.
Just how you reply. And it's not like, there's like faking it till you make it. It's like, I'm great.
Right there.
But there's like what you're saying.
See your facial expression.
I'm great. Everything's wonderful. There's like the passive aggressive, like you don't believe it, but then what you're saying is like, I'm great.
Yep.
Because you're creating it into existence before it even starts. And our words are so powerful. What we say, how we react. And so when we go out in the world and we're energetic and we say we're great, first off, other people are popping up their heads and noticing, because that's how many people, my biggest pet peeve in the world is when I ask somebody how they're doing and they say, not too bad. Nick, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Not too bad.
Fine.
Like, what is that? Like yesterday you were chewing glass. Today you're not. Not too bad. Yesterday was a disaster.
Good news. It's going up from here.
It's going up from here. Not too bad. That's like the most common answer you'll get. My number one pet peeve when I go into a business and ask somebody working in a business, how's it going today? And they say, not too busy. Like, is that a good thing? Like, are you going to have a job next week? I don't know. Not too busy.
They're not creating a positive environment for themselves.
No.
Right.
But that's the average.
Yeah.
That's the average. And so when somebody is out there and they're just enthusiastic and they say, great, it piques curiosity, because it goes, you're now not just responding to boring average language. It's like shaking up the pattern interrupt.
Love it. Love it. Listen, man, I might go a little unhinged here, but life is a gift. Like I don't know, people say it in crazy different ways, but the atoms or the vibrations came together and they somehow created a possibility, and that's why you and I are here today, right? Yeah. Our time is limited, but our opportunities are unlimited. The limit is us, the way we see things. And so, as you say, that average, boy, to me, that's a travesty. That's a damn shame.
Yes.
That there's so many people living in misery or in futility when they really don't have to. So somewhere along the line, it became a little bit of a mission of mine to try to give people a little boost, right? To get them a little happier about their day, a little more excited, and let them know that there's a possibility of something else. And it turns out that whatever little tiny bit of juice I give them comes back to me a
Right back.
thousandfold, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't set out to be selfish about it, but happily it's, it's paid off in a big way. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing is when you attach an outcome to it, if you're like, I'm going to go out and be nice to people and then hopefully I make some money. I'm going to go out and be nice to people and do nice things and hopefully I get my payback versus I'm going to just go out and be nice to people.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go out and say hi and have energy and lift people up. And you two different things,
right? But you can tell, right? When
You can
someone's
tell.
doing that, when someone just wants the exchange,
Oh,
you
yeah.
can tell that that's happening.
Yep.
And so you don't, that makes you feel icky. That's the classic definition of salesmanship, right?
Yep.
They just want something from you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And when you tell them no, they're now no longer that nice smiling person that has been, so nice this whole time.
If they're smart, they're still nice. But
If they're smart, they're still
right.
nice. But I've seen it happen so many times in that sales situation where you tell a salesperson no, or you give them a decline, that all of a sudden they become their true selves, or they let their frustrations out.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. And just to be as blessed as we are to be able to have this conversation in a great environment, to be able to send this message out. I get a little woo-woo when I talk about this stuff. But I think the reason for that is that it's very hard to talk about all the discrete parts. When we talk about a business process, we can talk about the pieces and how they go together. If you're a scientist, you can explain how genetics works or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But when you're talking about personal development, the risk is you're going to go off sound a little unhinged sometimes.
Yeah.
The point is there's no concrete scientific process for that, right? A big deal of lived experience is that it's intuitive, it's not discrete. So it's hard to talk about. I don't, about my permission event.
Yes.
I always say, right, it's about 90% science and 10% voodoo. And what I mean, that voodoo is the part you can't explain. The voodoo is the part that if I'm not authentic, if I don't believe, you're never going to either. We can go through the motions, but that's not what we're there for. We want that extra junk, whatever that is, the juice, the intensity. And that comes from being part of a social group, part of relating to other people, part of helping people authentically without expectation of reward.
I was in my head like, we can't not talk about permission. We've got to talk about permission. So I'm so glad you brought it up. Tell me about these events, and again, kind of what your inspiration for it was. And I've seen it from you. They were both times were on days that I had something going on or I was doing a speaking event. But tell me about this experience and how that's impacted people's lives.
So Permission is a 12-hour immersive event. It's around personal development. And I tell people, look, you got to agree to show up at 6 a.m. and stay till 6 p.m. You got to agree to participate fully. But the single most important thing, and it actually takes like the first hour and a half to get people in this headspace, the first and most important thing is to teach people the concept of unconditional positive regard, that when you're interacting with people, you do it without judging. Turns out that's really hard.
It's really hard.
But I say, listen, if there's a serial killer in the room, leave now. But everybody else has probably got positive things that they want. So you can sit there while they talk about their goals and their dreams, and you can nod, and you can ask questions, and you can be supportive, and you can say, hey, that's great. Mm-hmm. And you can demonstrate it with high fives, hugs, and handshakes. But when you leave here, you don't have to love what they did. But the point is, for this 12 hours, I want you to completely don't judge. And by the way, don't help either, because that's a form of implicit judging, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, that's
you
sympathy.
tell me, hey, I want to build my business, and I come up with 10 ideas. That's not unconditional positive regard. That's me saying, hey, I got a bunch of ideas. It's me now, right? So we have people map out their dreams. We give them a bunch of tools to figure out what their resources are, what obstacles they have to overcome, and they leave with a plan and action steps. And most importantly, they leave jacked about it. They're really excited, right? People have changed their lives. They've changed their careers. They've changed relationships. People still reach out to me and they go, man, it was 3.5, 4 years ago, and I'm still doing positive things because of that event. We haven't done it since COVID because
since COVID,
because of COVID, and putting 100 people in a room and doing high fives, hugs, and handshakes. Yeah. That would be Permission, the super spreader event. We don't want that, but yeah, it's been amazing, and I want to get back to it. I'm just retooling it and trying to figure out what the
when's
next
a good time
are.
and what is the next step.
Yep.
I can't wait for your next one because I'm definitely going to be at that one.
Awesome.
So yeah,
you'll be on the list. You'll be the first on the list.
Yeah, I always see the cool pictures, and it's you always have the most amazing people there, that's one of the ways we've been connected is we share a lot of mutual connections with amazing people like Trass and Hassan and Nick Geese and, just some really cool people out there. And to see them all part of the event is, it's like, I want to be a part of that.
There you go. And that shows again, the idea that you got to do things with other people. That
Yeah.
they lend so much to that event. They make it so much better than it would be if it was just me, running the whole thing.
It's all about community. And we talked about my business being here 4.5 years. The biggest thing I've gotten out of this is just a network, like connections with people that are just incredible. To be able to message you on a Friday and be like, hey, can you show up on my podcast on Monday? And you're here. Like that is just, 4.5 years ago, I didn't know you, let alone be able to say, hey, can you make my podcast? And just the people I've had on this podcast and the clients I get to work with, just, people that have changed my life, coaches and mentors that I've had. Like it's, opening up that world there for people out there to say, I don't have the right people in my life. There's no excuse. You can find the right people.
Yeah.
Go to an event like Permission. You're going to find the right people.
Yeah. Yeah. And you build it. It's a network. You have to build it up. It's authentic. You can't make it happen.
Yeah.
And if you do, it's just so cool to live in a world where you can stop into a place or, pop something up on social media and have these people that you know and you love respond in a positive way. Like, man, this is a cool place to live. I really like this.
It's good. Yeah. And you can meet people. It's like in such random places. I met you at PTN, like a free networking group, on Thursdays.
Is that where we first met?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah. I remember you stood up and you were, I think maybe you were talking about Permission, maybe the first time. And you stood up and you were talking like, I need to meet this guy. And it's so funny. It's like literally 3 years later, here we are sitting down and having our first one-on-one conversation. We've talked in groups, but
isn't it crazy in retrospect how these things are pivotal moments? So we're sitting here talking. We both evolved a lot since that time.
Yeah.
Built businesses, but there was that moment where we met each other. I mentioned before we started my martial arts podcast, right? Punch, Kick, Choke, Chat. 30 some odd years ago, I had just moved back from Japan. I met this senior martial arts guy from Canada, and for whatever reason, he saw what I saw when I was learning martial arts. He said, "Oh, I got to meet that guy." So he and I met. I was teaching him some of what I knew. Now he's part of this podcast, and I teach a lot of his students as well, become really close friends with a lot of those people. And when we think back, the whole reason was he looked across a room in Boston in 1992 or something like that and liked what he saw and connected with me. And now we've got this entire network of connections all based on that single moment.
that's powerful.
Yeah.
I love going back and like looking back. How did I meet this person? Where were we connected at? And I love like, especially you'll start to see coincidences or you see the same people. There's connectors in life. There's certain people that introduce you to more people. Tress is one of those people. I've met so many people because of Tress.
Yeah. Yeah. I love Tress, man. She came to Permission 1.
Yeah.
I don't remember why or how.
Well, that was the first time you met Tress?
That was the first time I met Tress at Permission. And, she's so vibrant, as you know.
Oh, yeah.
And so she's just, she's beautiful to look at. She's bright hair. She was the first person to get up and dance for the music. She did all the things that I wanted a person to do when they came to Permission, and it helped change her life.
They probably gave everybody else permission, right?
Well, that's right. So it was all, she was just a paying participant, but she was a driver of success in that event. I don't know how to explain how wonderful I feel. She's one of the most amazing people on the planet, and I'm so grateful. Now we're still friends all these years later. Just that pivotal moment.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's so. I met Tress for the first time at PTN too, which is so crazy to think about this little free networking event on Thursdays. Right. There was some cool people I've met over the time at that event though, but it was probably within the same few months I met Tress and met you at that event, and both of you are incredible. But you're right. Like I picture Tress being at this event, and she's like vulnerable, like she dances, she does these things that other people hold themselves back on. I just imagine how it would make everybody else so much looser and available.
Yeah, 100%. And so, and everybody I know that's kind of in our both worlds, right? They love the fact that she's so amazing. And that's not the only story like that. I don't want to diminish it because she's really among a very small group of friends now that are very close to me, almost like a part of my family now. But that kind of thing happens frequently in powerful moments. Permission is one of them. Martial arts training, as I alluded to before, is one of them. Yeah. And building business success with people can be that way, right? My favorite outcome of 3 years, 5 years, 7 years of marketing for a business is when I become really good friends with somebody, right? And I have stories like that. I just spent the weekend at a beautiful cabin that's owned by somebody that owns one of the businesses I do marketing for. We've become great friends. And, if he said tomorrow, hey, man, I really need you, right?
You'd be there.
Just ask. I'm there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it started because he wanted more clients, right?
We talked about that at the very beginning. We've alluded to this whole time, but it's like, and we talked about taking care of people and whatnot. Business comes like, how do you build relationships where like that, where you all of a sudden they're still clients, but they're friends, and you guys just kind of take care of each other?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Somehow that's come up in all these little areas, right? You've asked me this question in a variety of different ways. Like you start somewhere and you end up somewhere else, and that's the goal. I think being authentic, being intentional, truly helping people, selflessness within reason. You can't throw your own life away. Luck.
Yeah.
Well, every story is not a success story. So in the course of all these businesses, bad things have happened. We've had a lot of clients, not all of whom have stayed. I've had a lot of people working for me, not all of whom have stayed. So, but they go away. The ones that stick for a long time, and not all the ones who stick for a long time are really close friends, but some are. That's the dream. That's the 1/3, right? That's the 1/3 that makes me happy to go to work, is that I meet these people and yeah, there's just, oh my gosh. I guess another part of it, and I think you must feel this way too, is that I think entrepreneurship is a really unique and wonderful place to be. People give all of themselves to their businesses, right?
Yeah.
And if you can counsel people and kind of guide them through this path and help them be more successful, happier at work, all that stuff, you're doing them. This is not like it's not a business exchange.
No.
You're powerfully influencing the path of their lives.
I had this gentleman that I was coaching. He was a sales guy at one of my clients, and this was one of my very first big client that I had when I started my business. And this guy, I worked with him for about 4 months, and you could tell he was changing as a person. But one day he was like, "It's crazy." He was like, "You are supposed to just mentor me in sales." He was like, "But I'm noticing that I'm just changing." And he's like, "My mind is changing, and I'm watching how my parents interact." And he was like, and I was sitting over the weekend, I was watching my parents interact, and he was like, and this was just normal life for me. And I've been recreating the cycle where I'm falling into my own relationships, having the same pattern type of conversations. And I realized I can stop this. I don't have to keep doing this. I can communicate the way that we've been talking about how to communicate with clients and how to communicate with these people in my life as I'm building these relationships. Why am I not doing this in my personal life? And so he's like, so I just find it really crazy that you're supposed to be the sales guy, but you're helping me in my normal everyday life. And that's just, it is what it is, because to me, and the reason why I ask you these questions in different forms over and over is because to me, it's so easy. We just make it so hard because we tie a result to it. Sales is so easy, but we make it so hard because we throw fear and, some limiting beliefs, and we think about what sales is, and there's all kinds of, or we need to make money, or our boss is going to write us up, or all these things that have to do with me. But if I just really came outside of that box and I'm like, who are you?
Yeah.
What's your goal, man?
Right. To be fair, it can be really hard.
It can be really
hard. Some people are terrified, right?
Yeah.
They can't get their next meal, or they don't have a place to live, or even if it's not that close, often our anxieties aren't realistic, but for many people it is. So you need the bandwidth, you need the free emotional space to think that way.
Yep.
We keep coming back to this. There's, you have to learn process, whether it be martial arts, sales, personal relationships. You have to learn the process, and you have to stay in the process, have faith in it long enough for things to happen. But I suppose folks that come at it with not enough basics in hand can never even get to that place, or it's very hard to get to that place because they're just trying to get the next peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. It's coming into an object, and it's like where you look at, are people objects that are in there to help you get something, whether it's to sell them so you can make more money, or they're a boss that's going to give you a paycheck, or they're a coworker that's going to help you get your work done, or whatever it is. If they're an object that's just getting something done, versus looking at them like they're a person, that they have their own goals, they have their own challenges, they have their own fears, they have their own, in how can we work together?
Yeah. So I have two thoughts on that. One is when I'm as a business owner, giving them a paycheck allows them to eat and have a place to live and some respect, self-respect. Not that they don't have it, but you get my point. And then giving them autonomy at work allows them to grow. Right?
Yeah.
Me not telling them what to do as much as me encouraging them to find the solutions and giving them support they need to get there. Back to that. But then back to the population that maybe doesn't even have enough building blocks to get there, right?
Yep.
I think that's where the obligation starts to happen when we get more successful, to give back, right? To support nonprofits, charitable organizations, mentor people, and that's why I think you see a lot of the really high-profile, wealthy people giving their fortunes away or creating foundations and doing all that stuff. Yeah. I'm not sure how effective that is. I haven't been in it long enough. I do a lot of charitable contribution, but I haven't been in it long enough to understand the evolution. Is it just giving money away? I think pure charity, I'm not sure I believe in yet.
Yeah.
But charity tied to personal growth or
yes.
entrepreneurship,
yeah.
I do believe in that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it goes back to teaching men to fish. To fish. If I give you $2,000, great. You'll eat. You'll pay your bills. You'll be happy about that. But then that money's gone. Mm-hmm. And how do you get more? Unless you come back to me and ask me for more, right? Or you do work for me or whatever it is, so you can get more of that money. But if I show you how to make that money, if I show you how to build a business that you can go out and create that money for yourself, now you just empowered them. To go back and just highlight, you talked about, I asked you a while ago, how do you get to a company where this, all of a sudden one of your guys is leading the meeting and you can sit in the back and kind of observe, and it's giving them the autonomy. You circled back to it here just a minute ago, and I want to highlight that. You give them the autonomy to bring themselves to work, to be able to have their ideas and not stand over them and say, this is the way that you do it. You have to have processes. You have to be intentional, but to stand over them and micromanage is a completely different thing than having a process in place and allowing them to bring themselves into that process. That's how you get there, because now they're comfortable leading, because they're not, what does Nick want me to say? Am I going to mess up when is Nick going to tell me that I shouldn't say, now they're not second guessing themselves.
Yeah. That takes time. As a business owner, you have to learn to trust people, right? So in the beginning, you give them more, right? You tell them what the processes are, you train them, and you learn to watch the results. But once they prove that, and this has been evolution. I talked about how I grow in the business. It's been an evolution for me to learn to let go and to recognize that when people are capable.
Yeah.
Once people show they're capable, I've learned you need to get out of the way a lot quicker than I used to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Get out of the way soon, because then they're going to be vibrant and rich at work instead of feeling like they're just doing working for a paycheck.
And I had a guest on my podcast. He said, and this stuck out to me ever since he said, it's been a few weeks. You retain 90% of what you teach versus 20% of what you're told. So if you're out there, if you can learn it and then you can go out there and you can teach others how to do it. So you have these leaders that are going out and teach it. They're retaining it even more, and then empower them to go out and teach it. And you have an organization of people it's self-sufficient.
Yeah, that's kind of the dream of an event like Permission is that wouldn't it be great to get 100 people to understand how to transfer happiness and personal development, and have them teach 100 each and 100 each and change the world. Of course, there's limits, but that's a great place to live in. It's maybe I'm just not evolved enough yet. I don't see it scaffolding like that as much in pure business or in martial arts or the other things I'm involved in yet. But I do know that in that environment we're in, that group, let's say in the business of employees and clients, we can do that. We can create a very positive place that leads to success of many kinds: financial, emotional, right, family support, that kind of thing. That's a great place to live.
That's incredible.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. When everybody's empowered, right? And they want to bring more, because you're empowering them. If you're excited about their ideas, you're empowering them even more.
Why do you think we're afraid of that? Like I think I see it a lot, and I've seen it in myself as well. As I'm almost afraid to empower other people because I feel like I'm creating competition or something. I don't know if that's really true.
Yeah, it could be, because you could empower it's one of those things. It's like you could sit and think about, what if I what if I empower this person and then they go on and they become competition? Maybe they are. Or maybe they're just extremely grateful for you because you've changed and mentored their life. And I look back at the people that stepped in and did that for me, the big mentors that changed my life. I wouldn't be here right now having this conversation with you if it wasn't for them having the vulnerability, I guess, to be able to step in and feed me, even though I could have been a competitor. In fact, my biggest mentor, I did go out and become a competitor, in the sense of I ran another company that competed with his, but it was always a friendly competition because it's like, I'm a big sports guy. So if you think about the coaching trees, you think about the Bill Belichick's, and that's not a good one because all of his coaches suck. But I say that as a Lions fan. Bill Walsh. Bill Walsh is a good example. He had this coaching tree that produced like Mike Holmgren and Shanahan and all these amazing coaches that became the next leaders of the NFL. They now have relationships. Even though they're competitors, they have these great relationships in between, so it makes football a better place. It makes the competition a better place.
Yeah. So in the moment, it makes things better. And then the other part of it is that if we're not evolving, right? So I think a lot of times, I'm just riffing here. So
yeah, I know this is a total riff.
Yeah, if I say stupid
I hope people
things,
are following us.
Yeah. If you stay where you are, so I think one of the reasons why there's that fear of teaching others is that you feel like they're going to force you to change against your will. If you're already changing at speed of light, which you should be, that's probably not an issue. And so then somebody like Bill Walsh or somebody, should eventually become a guru, right?
Yeah.
So he should coach for a while. Telling somebody else what to do. People can do what they want. What I want to do, right, is be a worker for a while, and then be a leader, and then I want to be Yoda.
Yes, I was gonna say Yoda, right?
Yeah, right. In which case, I can interact with people in a way, continue to help them. And honestly, I feel like I'm getting a lot better at it. So I can do, so it's not mystical yet.
Yeah. You're moving things with your mind versus moving. And this is like metaphorical because you think of Star Wars. That's my favorite analogy. Right. But you're moving things with your mind versus moving things physically, going and having to pick them up.
Yeah. And then you got to get out of the way and let the young Luke Skywalkers come up, right?
Yeah.
If you stay there and do that battle, first of all, you're going to age. You're not going to be that good at it.
Yeah.
Second of all, if you're like me, you can get bored with it. You got to move on to something else.
Yep.
So that anxiety about competition, I think is, it's okay, but it's probably mostly misplaced.
I think there's two things. My mentor that ended up being a competitor, he used to say, like, I'm going to go out and tell everybody everything that I do because the chances that they go out and do it is very little, very small. Very few people change their habits. So you can give them the Bible of step by step how to do this, and they don't go do it, right?
Yep.
The ones that do, great. There's so much out there. It goes back to the abundance mindset of, if you think that one person's going to add competition that's going to shut you down, probably not, right?
Yeah.
But if you have somebody that's your competitor in the industry that respects you because you changed their life and you mentored them, and they, there's a client out there that's working with you, they're probably got good things to say about you versus I'm going to try to steal this person's business, right? It's, it's just it's a different. There are bad people out there. There are people that will rip you off, and you gotta kind of watch for that. But most people that you bring in, you take care of, most people are not inherently bad.
Yeah. I don't know why, but I know you play golf, and a golf analogy just jumped into my head. So, if you're a machine and you hit it dead straight down the fairway and then right onto the green, and then you two-putt every single time, right? That's one way of playing golf. And that might be where that's where the anxiety comes from. It's like, I'm running my business this way and I never want to change. But there are other people, right, that maybe they hit it off to the right a little bit and you got to hit it back. The second shot is not only going forward, but it's correcting for the first shot. That's the way life is. That's the way business is, right?
Yep.
So if you're clinging to this ideal of never changing, it's an illusion. It's an illusion. And so if you train somebody, and as you said, there's always evil people, and they come out as competition or in some way destructive to you, you just got to take that second shot from a different lie, right? And so be it, man. Are you good enough? You better step up.
Exactly.
Right.
But if you don't do that, then you risk not probably mentoring the Luke Skywalkers out there and not building your team.
Oh, that's a great point I hadn't thought of. Like,
Right.
if you're not a mentor, you're not going to get any shot at that.
Yoda died, right? Who saves who saves the galaxy if it's not Luke Skywalker?
Yeah.
You know, and so we all had that mortality. What can we leave? And that's what I look at as the legacy. When I'm gone, what's left? What did I do? What impact did I have?
Yeah, I think about that too. Although I'm anti thinking about age.
Yeah.
but absolutely, the legacy and opportunity now, opportunity for your family. If you leave nothing but a great example for your kids, that's not bad. You've done pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So have you ever read the book 5 People You Meet in Heaven?
I have not read it. I'm aware of it, and I need to get it.
Okay.
It's on my list.
Super good book. It just made me think of it just now out of the blue. But it's like, we've talked about this a couple of times. You have no idea who you impact. And that's the whole premise of the book. This guy thinks he lived a worthless life, and then he dies, and he meets these 5 people in heaven that he tremendously impact and changed their life forever. And it's like when you're thinking about that, who did I impact? Who did I change? And not purpose, again, not going out like, because again, if I have an attached result, like I'm going to work with you, Nick, until I change your life. Now I'm doing it for me and not for you. I've put an outcome to it, and I'm doing it for me and not you. If it's one of those things, you're working with somebody and you know that you want to change and mentor people, but you're not, like how amazing does that feel as you're mentoring and changing people's lives?
Yeah. So coming back to kind of figuring out a way to do things authentically, abundantly, get a lot of joy out of it, right? Faith in the process, recognizing that other people are important. I think we've come up with 5 or 7 keys to living a really joyful, abundant life.
Yeah. We can write a book out of this.
Oh man!
I
need some more work. Yeah.
Nice. I officially today, by the way, is my first. I just launched my book. I saw you comment on it.
Oh man, that's so exciting! Congratulations.
Super, thank you. Yeah. So, for those that don't know, my book is launched today on Amazon. So you're talking about you have a book on Amazon. So there's a online download, or you can order the paperback. But super excited about that. It's my first one, and it's been a goal of mine forever. So
I will have ordered it before the end of the day today.
Oh man, super exciting! Thanks a lot.
I can't wait. And then next time we meet, you'll have to sign it for me.
Oh, definitely. Oh, that'd be crazy. That'd be
Wouldn't that
awesome.
be awesome?
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it.
Super awesome, man. So what would you leave everybody with?
You can do it. You can do it. I never thought that I would be doing half the stuff that I'm doing today. Everything that says you can't do it is a lie. Life is a blessing. The place you turn, the things you focus on are the things that grow. You just got to be patient. You got to be abundant. You got to help others without any thought of, or with little thought of
what's
personal
in it for
reward, right? What's in it for me? And then I guess something that's made the biggest difference in my life is just learning to listen to the universe. When you're in a business networking group and you're trying to sell martial arts and everybody's saying, how can I get more business? You need to stop and go, wait a minute, is there something that I can do that helps them with that, right? Yeah. And the truth is, those moments are going on all the time.
All the time.
Right? And most of the time, we've got our head down with some thoughts, and we're just blitzing past those.
Yep.
The truth is, though, if you stop and listen, who am I, right? How can I help? What are these people saying? Then you can find these pivotal moments to do what you do, or even vector into a brand new thing and make a huge difference in the world. Man, that's a rocking way to live, I got to tell you.
Just solving people's problems.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool. And it's again, slowing it down.
Mm-hmm.
We get so, I pictured fitting the square peg in the round hole, selling martial arts to the business group. It's
right.
so hard.
Right.
But then you're listening to what they're saying. I need more business.
Mm-hmm.
How can you serve them?
How can you serve? Absolutely. My gosh. Yeah. It's not about you, as Dr. Phil would say.
Yeah.
It's not about you.
Yep.
Serve people with excellence and distinction. And man, all the rewards you need come after that.
Absolutely. And to go back, you just said something that reminded me of this, but you said, I don't like mentioning age. There's a little bit ago, you mentioned I think you said back in 2006, you're 46 or something. I'm like, well, look, I thought you were 46 now.
Yeah, right.
So it's one of those things when you don't focus on it, like age. Yeah, we're all going to age. I'm sure there's certain things as you're doing stuff, you wake up and feel different. I know I do.
Sure.
But when it's like living in that mindset of being healthy, happy, energetic, doing the things we love, I know I feel much different. I'm 43 only, but I feel much different. It's like a different age doesn't really exist.
Just getting started. I mean, you got to take care of yourself. You got to recognize we're physical beings. So nutrition, sleep, hydration, exercise, those things are so critical. And I've made them a huge part of my life. But I want to feed the machine. I want to live as long as I can. I want to see what this world has to offer. I want to be alive for my kid as long as she's growing and still in my life, right? So I do all those things, but it turns out they're not separate from entrepreneurship. They're not separate from mentoring people. They're not separate from personal development. Keeping the body and the mind healthy is really critical.
It is key. And what a great way to end this, because I think it's so key for entrepreneurs sitting here is like, and I mentioned this earlier, it's so easy to be like, I got to work all day. I've got to do all this stuff. I know that guilt has crept in as I'm sitting in, I have all this stuff that needs to get done, or I need to pay this bill or whatever it is, that I need to work all this time, but I'm just burning myself out by doing that. You need to find things that you enjoy. And so to our some more success tips that we've talked about in this episode, you need to find time. What do you like to play in? What do you like to do? What re-energizes you? And then you need to take care of yourself. You need to find time to take care of yourself. Yep. Getting that fast food really quick, there's a price to pay for that. Not just monetary, but you're going to lose energy throughout the week. Not getting your workout in, not going to the gym, not taking care of your body, not doing those things. You're going to not have the energy that you need in order to get you through the times that you need it.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we've pretty much done a good job of solving the world's problems.
I think we solved the world's problems. Yeah.
Love it, man. That's how you do.
Man, Nick, thank you so much for coming down.
Thank you so much. This has been great.
Thank you.
Loving it. Brother, good to meet you again.
Absolutely. Yeah. To dive in, actually. So
100%.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Very cool.